welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on Paramount Plus that likes to carry on like a pork chop. That's right, we're talking about the Challenge World Championships episode 5. Now, we have a lot to unpack in this week's episode, so let's start off where last episode left off, and that was Jody and Benha winning against Naya and Rodrigo in the elimination to come back to the Challenge House. And it's bittersweet coming back to the Challenge House, you know? For Jody and Benha, they're happy to still be in this game, but they just won against the only other Argentina team that was left in this game. And now Jody and Benha are on island, and they are praying for change. Change in strategy, change in target, moving forward because they're getting tired of being nominated for elimination, possibly going into elimination, along with Kellyanne and Tristan. The next morning, we get a little deep dive into every single conversation that is happening within the house. We see Emily and Grant talking about their alliance with the US team. More specifically, they're happy to be connected with Danny and Sarah as they really like those two players and they want to work with them through the entire game. This is when we see Kiki complaining about the house being a pigsty, and we get some criticism from Grant about Kiki. Grant calls Kiki an airhead and says that she never really gives them a straightforward answer in anything. It's always kind of beating around the bush. He says that she's carrying on like a pork chop. And then we hear from Kiki's point of view that Emily and Grant are very close with each other inside and outside the game. They're always talking with each other. They're having their strategy talks with each other and the other alliances in the house, and then coming to Kiki after the fact. So Kiki also feels that she can't really trust Emily and Grant fully within this game, as well as they don't think that they can trust Kiki. We also see a conversation between Wes and Jordan, and they want to have a third name ready, just in case if ever Jody and Benha or Kellyanne and Tristan, the two names that have been nominated multiple times, if either one loses a daily challenge and is going directly into the elimination, and then we get to the voting ceremony where they have to name another team, a different team, they want to have one ready in their back pocket. They agree that Yes and Emily would be the perfect third name just in case. From there, we move on to a conversation between Danny and Sarah, and they're tired of playing it safe. They understand where the vets are coming from, where the legends are coming from, with being like, trust us with our connections from years of playing this game together, but that's not going to appease Sarah and Danny, who want to make big moves. And this is where we hear the criticism from Sarah saying, for people being considered legends of the game, they're quite scared to play this game. Where I think a lot of people agree with Sarah here about her criticism with the legends and them not wanting to play the game. We move on to Casey and Justine talking about how this is Casey's first season without Nani. I mean, this is Casey's first season without a lot of people that she's played with. I mean, one of them being Fessel, and I think Casey is showing that she has a good social game and a lot of good, strong connections, even without Nani or Fessel or any other Big Brother brethrens that aren't in this game, or a lot of the other Vacation Alliance that Casey is able to navigate through this game, have protection, and she's doing quite well. We also hear from Justine giving a little insight into how her and possibly Danny and Sarah view Ben as a player and calls him wishy-washy, that he wasn't very trustworthy in the Challenge USA. This is where we get a big lengthy flashback of Ben's gameplay from the Challenge USA. And this is all setting up for what's going to happen later on through the voting ceremony. Speaking of Ben, we also see Ben and Bananas talking with each other, and they're having a conversation of how trustworthy they are. They're loyal to a fault, you know, and they're connecting on how good of people and players they both are, you know? Well, this is the point of the episode where everybody dons their challenge gear to head down to meet up with TJ for this week's daily challenge, which is the Crane Daily Challenge, the one that they've been posterizing up in every single promo, in every single trailer. It has finally arrived, and it is called Flying Around. One partner from every pair will be tied up and will be swinging around via the crane, and the other teammate will be on the ground trying to throw rings for their partners to catch while being swung around, and then at a certain point they're going to have to try to throw the rings into a center container. The team that can sink the most rings in their heat will win safety and win into power. Now, if the game was too easy, I know everybody was thinking this game is too easy. If that's all they had to do, well, TJ has a bunch of green drinks for everybody to drink within a 2-minute time period. If you can't fully drink your drink in the 2 minutes, or if you yak at any point, you will be deducted points from your total. Now, I'll be honest, this daily challenge was incredible. I love this daily challenge. It was so much fun to watch. It was so much fun to just like see everybody's strategies, how everybody was throwing the rings, how many rings can actually get tossed in there. It was really, really intriguing, really visually, aesthetically pleasing. I don't think that the green juice drinking portion really needed to be added to this daily challenge. Now, I will say that the green juice ultimately hindered one specific team to have them going directly into the elimination, a team that I wasn't expecting to see in elimination anytime soon, but I still think that it was a little bit like kind of a throwaway part of the challenge, you know? We go to Heat 1 where Wes and Zara opt out of drinking any of their drink. They take a little sip, it's nasty, they put it on the ground, and Wes is like, don't worry about it, we'll take the deduction, and maybe I'll sink 40 of these 50 rings. Ha! That's very optimistic. Wes and Zara start off with a negative 5 points. Everybody gets going, everybody's swinging, grabbing these rings, getting a feel and rhythm for the game. Wes and Zara have a really tough time to the point where they end with a negative 3 points. Justine and Banana crush this daily challenge, sinking 14 total rings, and Kellyanne and Tristan and Johnny and Grant both end with 3 points. We move on to Heat 2, where the only team to get a deduction from their green juice drinking portion was Theo and Sarah, because Theo couldn't keep all the green juice down. He yaks. They start off with a negative 2 points, but at the end of their round, they're actually tied for first in their heat with 8 total rings, alongside Yes and Emily. Jody and Benha end with 5 rings, and Ben and Casey do an abysmal job of only sinking 2 rings. We move on to Heat 3, the final heat, where we have Darrell and Kiki, Jordan and Kaz, Amber and Troy, and Danny and Tori. Now I have to commend Kiki drinking down this drink like it was nothing. Put her head back and just drank it in one gulp. The team that did not do well at all was Amber and Troy. Now, this is where we hear from the confessionals that Amber hasn't been feeling good the past couple of days, which is ultimately setting up, I think, her finding out that she is pregnant while filming this show. And in the next couple of episodes, we might hear that she is going to be medically disqualified because she finds out that she is pregnant. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves. We hear from Amber that she hasn't been feeling well. She's trying to drink this drink and she can't get it down. She doesn't drink the drink and she throws up. Meaning Amber and Troy start off this daily challenge with a negative 7 points. Can we just do a quick calculations real quick? Wes and Zara didn't even try. They each took a sip, put their drink down, and them not even trying resulted in a negative 5 points. Yet, Amber at least tries to drink the drink, throws up a little bit, and doesn't finish the drink. And Amber and Troy start out with a combined negative 7 points? By that logic, both Troy and Amber should have just put their drinks down and never touched them to just start off with a negative 5 points, rather than even trying, throwing up, and then not getting the drink down, resulting in negative 7 points. The audacity that Wes and Zara both didn't drink the drink, and that resulted in a lower point deduction than Amber, solo-wise, not drinking and yakking. What now? Heat 3 is going on, and Kiki is getting these rings to Darrell. Jordan and Kaz are doing a really great job. It seems like Amber and Troy is also doing a great job. Danny and Tori pretty steadily. However, we do not know the end results for round 3, as we never see the final results, but we do hear from TJ that the bottom 2 teams is Ben and Casey and Wes and Zara. Ben and Casey ended their round with 2 total points. Now, that means it's very impressive for Amber and Troy, who started out their heat with a negative 7 point. And if they're not in the bottom 2, that means they had to have sunk around 10 rings to get at least 3 full points. I wish we would have gotten to see the end results, because maybe Amber and Troy could have won if they would have gotten their green drink down. But because we know Ben and Casey ended with a positive number, Wes and Zara are the losers of this week's daily challenge and are going directly into the elimination. The 2 top placing teams was Justine and Bananas with 14 total points, and Darrell and Kiki, who went in Heat 3, and we have no idea how many points they exactly got. But Darrell and Kiki are crowned the winners, meaning they got 15 plus points. We walk back to the challenge house where everybody's mouths are like drooling for a big move to be made, both on the MVP side and on the legend side, because with a team like Wes and Zara, who was looked at as a very strong team, now going directly into elimination means that a very strong team of anybody else in the game could be sent in against them, and we know for sure that one strong team is going to be going home. Of course, we know that Danny and Sarah and the Australians really want Jordan and Kaz to be one of the nominated teams, and their plan is to nominate Johnny and Grant, who volunteered to go be a pawn next to Jordan and Kaz, because with Darrell and Kiki in power, they're thinking that they're going to stay Australian strong, and they're not going to send in an Australian team when there's a UK team that could possibly going in against another UK team, especially when that UK team has Jordan on it. A pretty solid plan, but the MTV Legends have a different plan in mind. They want to send in 2 Australian teams. I mean, we have Argentina kind of dismantled with only 1 team left. We have UK with 3 teams, and then we have Australia and the US having 4. So why not send in 2 Australian teams in as nominees, and that forces Darrell and Kiki to send in an Australian team against Wes and Zara, and the MTV Legends is praying that Wes and Zara can win against an Australian team, breaking up the Australian alliance. So with the house divided and everybody playing their own games and the whole house now being flipped on its head, we have Johnny and Grant getting 7 total votes. Then you have Theo and Sarah, Amber and Troy, Casey and Ben, Jody and Benha, Kellyanne and Tristan all getting 1 vote each. And then you have a tie between Yes and Emily and Jordan and Kaz. Now, this all boiled down to Danny and Tori's vote, with Ben siding with Casey and the other MTV Legends to vote in Johnny and Grant, as well as Yes and Emily. That left the MVP and Danny and Sarah's plan kind of like a sitting duck, you know? They were really hoping that they could trust Ben in wanting to send in Johnny and Grant and Jordan and Kaz. But the MTV Legends has done a great job getting into Ben's head. Ben and Casey were talking, and they said that, oh, well, Ben realized that he's at the bottom of the USA team's alliance, and instead of being at the bottom of their alliance, let's be at the top of the MTV Legends alliance, right? So with the last votes in this voting ceremony, we have Danny and Tori, who are not seeing eye to eye. Danny gave his word to Johnny, Grant, and the rest of Team Australia that he wasn't going to blindside them and send 2 teams from their country into an elimination. So he decides that he's going to take a stand and puts his foot down and does a bird vote between Jody and Benha, Kellyanne and Tristan, leaving a tie between Yes and Emily, Jordan and Kaz. Tori is fuming. She's upset. She wants to save Jordan and even tells Danny, if your ex-fiance was in the house, I would save them too. What? How many? That scenario does not normally happen on a challenge. So I just thought that was like, thank you for that, but that's never going to happen, you know? We ultimately reach a stalemate, which a stalemate is what is said on the computer screen. They regroup with the rest of the house, and that rest of the house is trying to fill them in, but they're still confused. What's gonna happen, you know? What was the mistake that happened? Who messed up on the politics, as well as what's going to happen with the stalemate. We're going to have to wait to meet up with TJ to see how that's all going to play out, you know? Before we can get to TJ, we see Sarah and Emily make fun of Tori and Jordan with their fake engagement, saying that because they are now engaged or once was engaged, they can never vote each other in, which is pretty funny. Troy lets Kiki know that Kiki's name being the vote the first time around when it was possibly her or Kaz going in against Claudia, that was all Emily's plan, which Kiki is so upset hearing that. Kiki and Darrell are talking about how Kiki can't really trust Emily and Grant moving forward in this game, but Darrell is trying to be like, look, it's way too early to make a move like that. Let's be Australia strong and let's take some other players out of this game, and then we can start dealing with strategy and not being able to trust our own countrymen, you know? Speaking of not being able to trust your own countrymen, Sarah, the US, and Australia are all mad at Ben. Ben made a move to not really make a move, Sarah says to ride the Legends' coattails. And I really do think that this could have been a really kind of bad decision on Ben's part, that it left him very vulnerable to where now everybody does not have a problem saying his and Casey's name moving forward. But I'll get a little more of that in tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk. This is when everybody dons their challenge gear to meet up with TJ at the arena for this week's elimination and to figure out what's gonna happen with this stalemate rule. Now, see TJ dressed up to the nines. He's looking quite dapper as he calls Wes and Zara down to meet him on the arena floor, and then he looks up at everybody and says that it sounds like y'all couldn't make a decision. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna have to enact the stalemate rule. Now, in the event of a stalemate, we find out that whoever is in power, the team that is in power, will get to pick anybody that they would want to send directly into the elimination. It does not matter who got the most votes, who got the second amount of votes, if you got a vote at all. It does not matter, because in a stalemate, the power team, this week is Darrell and Kiki, can choose anyone up there to send directly into the elimination. They have the full power to make either the biggest move in the game or not to make a move at all. Kiki just heard that Emily was kind of in the play to have Kiki's name be the vote in the first ever elimination of the season. Will that play a factor, or will they decide to go with the US and Australians' plan of trying to get Jordan and Kaz to go directly into the elimination, or will they default and decide to send in maybe Kellyanne and Tristan or Jody and Benha, two teams that have been voted in multiple times at this point and have both seen an elimination at this point? Well, we won't know that answer this week because we are left on a cliffhanger. Yet another cliffhanger. Now, I have to say that I was fully enjoying this week's episode. I thought the daily was very solid. I really liked the daily challenge. I love the drama, the strategy, the pooling, the tug of war for power in this game between the MVPs and the MTV Legends. I love seeing the MTV Legends kind of get uncomfortable. You know, we saw Tori getting very frustrated in the confessionals. We saw Jordan calling out the whole house saying, you want to be on the challenge? Well, this is the challenge. And we even had Bananas yelling about like, come on, this isn't how we've done it ever before. This is just a game. This isn't life or death. I mean, it's really fun to see the MVPs really pushing the buttons of the MTV Legends. Even though that everybody is tied with each other, there's going to be some big moves that have to be made. And I really like that the MVPs are deciding to dig in their heels, want to play the game they want to play, and they're not just going to default to their MTV Legends. And the MTV Legends are getting a little pressed, you know? I'm actually kind of excited to see this, and I can't wait for next week's episode, because then we'll finally get this elimination, we'll get Darrell and Kiki's decision, and we'll see how that's going to snowball moving forward with the drama in the house and everything moving forward in the next episode. But that is it for this week's episode. What do you think about this week's episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about the daily challenge? What decision do you think Darrell and Kiki are going to make? Do you think that they're going to say a big team's name like Jordan and Kaz? Do you think that they will turn on Australia, maybe saying Yes and Emily or Johnny and Grant's name to send into elimination? Or do you think that they will say a safe team name like Jody and Benha or Kellyanne and Tristan? Let me know down in the comment section below anything and everything from this past week's episode. I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more Challenge World Championship content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.